The night shift at Lunar Listening Post Alpha was always quiet. Most of the staff preferred the busier day shifts when communications with Earth colonies on Mars and Europa kept the channels busy, but Sam Carter liked the quiet. The 34-year-old communications specialist enjoyed the peaceful hours when he could listen to the deeper cosmos without interruption. Sam rubbed his tired eyes and reached for his coffee mug. It was his third cup of the night, and the station clock showed just past 2 a.m. Earth Standard Time. The massive array of radio telescopes spread across the far side of the moon continued their silent work, scanning distant stars for any sign of intelligent life. "Anything interesting tonight, Sam?" asked Judy Fisher, the night shift supervisor, as she made her rounds. "Just the usual cosmic background noise," Sam replied with a yawn. "Same as the last." A sharp, repeating tone cut through his headphones, making him wince and yank them off. The sound was unlike anything he had heard before, a distinct pattern that couldn't possibly be natural. "What is it?" Judy asked, noticing his sudden reaction. "Something new," Sam said, fingers flying across his console. "Something big." Within hours, the discovery shook the scientific community. Earth's Deep Space Listening Array had detected something unprecedented, a distress signal from over 40 light-years away. The message repeated in regular intervals, clearly artificial in origin. What made it extraordinary wasn't just its distance, but its clarity. Someone or something had directed a powerful transmission specifically toward our solar system. Dr. Alan Miller was asleep when his phone buzzed with urgent notifications. The lead xenolinguist at NASA's Communication Center groaned as he checked. The time, 3:42 a.m., but his annoyance vanished when he read the message. By 4:30 he was in his lab, still wearing mismatched socks and with his gray hair uncombed. "Play it again," he told his assistant, leaning forward in his chair as the strange sequence of tones filled the room. For 3 days straight, Dr. Miller barely left his lab. He worked alongside his team of linguists and code breakers, trying to find patterns in the alien message. His most trusted colleague, Kate Hudson, joined him on the second day. At 41, Kate was the leading astrobiologist with expertise in theoretical alien physiology. Her presence wasn't strictly necessary for translation work, but if they succeeded, her insights would be crucial. "There's a mathematical sequence here," Dr. Miller said on the fourth day, pointing to a repeating section of the transmission. "Universal language. They're using prime numbers to get our attention." Kate nodded, her red hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "They want to make sure even the most primitive spacefaring civilization could understand this is artificial." The end of the week, the basic structure of the message was becoming clear. It wasn't just random noise or a simple greeting. The alien transmission contained complex data packets, technical specifications, navigational coordinates, and what appeared to be biological information. "It's a distress call," Dr. Miller announced to the emergency meeting of the United Nations Space Coalition. Representatives from 27 nations sat in stunned silence as he displayed the decoded portions of the message on the main screen. They call themselves the Varnians. Their home star was dying, so they evacuated their planet on 7th-generation ships. But now they're facing a critical system failure. The images on screen showed massive ships, each one housing thousands of refugees. 30,000 lives in total, according to their numbers, all facing imminent danger. "How imminent?" asked the UNSC chairman. Kate Hudson stepped forward. "Based on the rate of system deterioration they've described, we estimate 6 to 8 months before life support fails completely, and they're 40 light-years away," someone muttered. "Even if we wanted to help." "We can reach them," interrupted a voice from the back of the room. All heads turned to see Captain John Davis of the experimental vessel UES Horizon. The 46-year-old stood with his arms crossed, his weathered face serious beneath his short brown hair. "The Horizon's fold space drive," he continued. "It's been tested in the Kuiper Belt. With some modifications, we could reach them in 6 months." The room erupted in debate. The fold space drive was humanity's newest and most dangerous technology, a theoretical way to bend space-time for faster-than-light travel. It had never been used for anything close to a 40-light-year journey. The risk is too high, argued Lieutenant Lisa Wright, Davis's first officer, when the captain proposed the mission. The stern woman had served with Davis for 7 years, including during the dangerous early Mars colonization missions. Her practical nature balanced his sometimes reckless optimism. We could lose the ship and crew. For what? An alien species we've never met? Davis stood on the bridge of the horizon, looking at the assembled crew of 27 volunteers. They were the best Earth had to offer: scientists, engineers, medical personnel, and seasoned space travelers. Every one of them knew the dangers they faced. The fold space drive might tear them apart at the atomic level. The aliens might be hostile. They might never return to Earth. "I won't lie to you," Davis said, his deep voice carrying across the quiet bridge. "This mission goes beyond any human experience. We're attempting something that was science fiction just 10 years ago. If you want to back out, now is the time. No one will think less of you." No one moved. Davis nodded, a small smile crossing his face. "Lieutenant Wright asked me earlier why we should risk our lives for an unknown species," he continued. "It's a fair question. We don't know the Varnians. We've never seen them. They might look nothing like us, think nothing like us. But they reached out across 40 light-years of space asking for help, and we heard them." He paused, looking at each crew member in turn. "We answer the call not because we know them," he told the assembled crew, "but because we know ourselves. Because if humanity means anything, it means we don't turn away when someone needs our help, even if that someone has 3 eyes or blue skin or comes from a planet we've never heard of. That's who we are. That's why we're going." As the UES, Horizon prepared for mankind's first interstellar rescue mission, news of the Varnian distress call spread across Earth. Humanity held its collective breath, hoping that their reach had not exceeded their grasp. Launch day arrived with clear skies over Cape Canaveral. The UES Horizon sat on its launch pad, gleaming in the morning sun. At 656 feet tall, the interstellar vessel was Earth's most advanced ship, a marvel of human engineering and determination. Thousands gathered to witness history, while billions more watched on screens around the world. Inside the ship, the 27 crew members went through final checks. Each wore the blue uniform of the United Nations Space Coalition, with a special mission patch showing Earth reaching out to 7 distant stars, representing the Varnian fleet they hoped to save. Chief Engineer Paul Adams, a stocky man with calloused hands and 20 years of spacecraft experience, ran his final diagnostics on the fold space drive. The massive engine took up 3 decks of the ship's rear section. Its core glowed with a soft blue light as it powered up. "How's she looking, Paul?" Captain Davis asked over the communication system. Paul tapped his tablet screen, reviewing the complex numbers. "Ready as she'll ever be, Captain, but I need to be clear. We've never pushed the drive this far. The math says it should work, but we're in uncharted territory," Davis finished for him. "Understood. Do your best." Navigation specialist Nicole Martinez joined Paul in the engine room. The 30-year-old had written half the algorithms that controlled the fold space drive during her doctoral work. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her expression focused but nervous. "I've run the calculations 17 times, she told Paul quietly. "The corridor should hold for the 6-month journey." "Should?" Paul raised an eyebrow. Nicole shrugged. "No one's ever bent space-time over 40 light-years before. We're going to find out together." On the bridge, Lieutenant Lisa Wright was supervising final preparations. She still had doubts about the mission, but her loyalty to Captain Davis and her sense of duty kept her focused on the task at hand. "All stations report ready, Captain," she announced as Davis entered the bridge. "Thank you, Lieutenant." Davis took his seat in the command chair and opened the ship-wide communication channel. "This is Captain Davis to all crew. In 5 minutes, we will attempt humanity's first interstellar rescue mission. Each of you volunteered knowing the risks. Whatever happens next, know that Earth is proud of you. I am proud of you." He nodded to Lieutenant Wright. "Begin launch sequence." The countdown echoed through the ship. When it reached 0, the Horizon's conventional engines roared to life, pushing the massive vessel away from Earth. Once clear of the atmosphere, Secondary propulsion systems engaged, carrying them beyond the moon's orbit to their designated jump point. Fold space drive is powered and ready, Paul reported from engineering. Navigation is set for the Varnian fleet coordinates, Nicole added, her voice steady despite the tension. Davis took a deep breath. Engage fold space drive. A deep humming filled the ship as the drive activated. Through the bridge viewports, the stars began to stretch like rubber bands. A bubble of distorted space-time formed around the horizon, and with a flash that temporarily blinded the external cameras, the ship vanished from the solar system. The first days in fold space were difficult. Half the crew suffered from fold sickness, dizziness, and disorientation caused by traveling through bent space-time. Dr. Susan Garcia, the ship's chief medical officer, worked around the clock to treat the symptoms. "It's like extreme motion sickness," she explained to Captain Davis as she checked his vitals. "Your inner ear says you're standing still, but at a quantum level, your atoms know they're being stretched across space-time." By the end of the first week, most crew members had adjusted. Work began in earnest on preparations for their arrival at the Varnian fleet. Communications officer Ben Scott spent his days in the ship's transmission room, sending signals ahead of their arrival. A former linguistics professor with a gift for patterns, the tall, thin man with wire-rimmed glasses was determined to establish contact before they arrived. On the 23rd day of the journey, his persistence paid off. "Captain," Ben's excited voice came over the intercom, "I've received a response from the Varnian fleet." The message was garbled and difficult to understand, but it was definitely artificial and directed at the horizon. Over the next few weeks, Ben worked day and night to establish a communication system with the aliens. Using mathematical principles and the translation algorithms developed by Dr. Miller back on Earth, he managed to create a basic understanding. "They're sending us technical data," Ben explained during a crew briefing in the ship's conference room. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his expression was excited. Schematics of their ships, their life support systems, biological information. He displayed the translated data on the main screen. The Varnian ships were massive, each, one nearly a mile long, designed to sustain life for generations as they traveled between stars. "We've figured out the problem," Paul said, studying the technical readouts. "Their atmospheric recyclers are failing because of radiation damage. They passed near a neutron star about 13 years ago, and the radiation has caused a cascading breakdown in their systems." Nicole pointed to a section of the schematics. "They've tried to repair the damage, but they're missing key materials. Their mining ships were damaged in the same radiation burst." Meanwhile, Dr. Garcia and her medical team analyzed the biological data the Varnians had sent. The doctor's usually calm face showed concern as she reported her findings. "They're oxygen, breathers like us, but their blood is copper-based, not iron-based like ours. They're extremely sensitive to temperature changes and require trace elements we don't even have names for." She displayed an image of what they believed a Varnian looked like, a tall, slender being with 4 arms and an iridescent skin covering. "If their life support fails completely, they can't survive in our atmosphere without extensive modifications. We need to fix their systems, not evacuate them." As the weeks passed, the crew of the Horizon prepared for every possibility. They manufactured tools that might be compatible with Varnian technology. They synthesized compounds that might replace the failing parts of the aliens' life support. They practiced emergency procedures for first contact with a dying civilization. 5 months and 18 days into their journey, Paul reported that they were approaching the coordinates where the Varnian fleet should be. "Preparing to exit fold space," Nicole announced, her fingers flying over her control panel. "Everyone brace for transition." The ship shuddered as it slowed from faster-than-light travel. The bubble of distorted space-time collapsed around them, and suddenly they were back in normal space. Through the viewport they could see distant stars, an entirely different section of the galaxy than the one they had left behind. Captain Davis stood from his chair, staring at the long-range sensors. "Any sign of the fleet?" Nicole adjusted. "The sensors. Got them. 7 large vessels at coordinates 227 by 143, about 6 hours away at standard speed." A cheer went up around the bridge. They had made it. The longest journey in human history had reached its destination. Davis gathered his senior staff on the bridge as they approached the rendezvous point. Their faces showed a mixture of exhaustion and determination after the long journey. "We're not just saving lives," he said, looking at each of them in turn. "We're showing the universe what humanity stands for." The UES horizon slowed to approach speed as the 7 massive alien ships came into view. Even from a distance, the vessels were unlike anything humans had built. Each ship was roughly cylindrical but covered with bulging sections and curving spires that gave them an organic appearance like giant sea creatures floating in the black ocean of space. "My God," Lieutenant Wright whispered, staring at the main view screen. "They're enormous." Captain Davis nodded. The largest Varnian ship was nearly a mile long, 5 times the size of the horizon. Its dark hull showed patches of different materials where repairs had been made over the decades of their journey. "Designate the largest vessel as Homekeeper," Davis ordered. "It seems to be coordinating the fleet's movements." The 7 Varnian ships had arranged themselves in a defensive formation, with the smaller vessels positioned to protect the largest one. As the horizon approached, they made subtle adjustments, maintaining their protective stance. "They're afraid," Lieutenant Frank Taylor said from his tactical station. The 40-year-old security officer had spent 20 years in the Navy before joining the space program. His hand hovered near the weapons controls, more from habit than intent. "They don't know if we're here to help or hurt them." "Send the greeting message again," Davis ordered. "All frequencies. Maximum clarity." Ben Scott nodded, his fingers dancing, across his communication panel. "Sending now, Captain. I've refined the translation algorithms based on our exchanges during the journey. They should understand our peaceful intentions." Everyone on the bridge held their breath, waiting for a response. After what seemed like an eternity, the communication system crackled to life. "Captain," Ben called out, excitement clear in his voice. "They're responding with a video signal." "On screen," Davis ordered, standing from his chair. The view screen flickered, and for the first time humans looked upon the face of a Varnian. The alien had a triangular head with 3 large eyes arranged in a pattern, 2 at what would be eye level for a human, and 1 centered higher on the forehead. Its skin was iridescent, with shifting colors that seemed to pulse with its emotions. Most striking were its forearms, each ending in 7-fingered hands that moved with delicate precision. The Varnian spoke, its mouth opening to reveal blue-tinted mouth parts. Instead of just sounds, it also released patterns of bioluminescent light from spots along its neck. The ship's computer attempted to translate. "Gratitude beyond measure to the star travelers who heard our call." The rough translation came through. "I am voice of many a speaker for the last fleet of Varnia." Captain Davis stepped forward. "I am Captain John Davis of the United Earth ship Horizon. We received your distress call and have come to help." The translation system converted his words into the strange combination of sounds and light patterns that the Varnians used for communication. Voice of Many's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, and its skin color shifted to a brighter blue. "Your journey, impossible distance, for strangers," the Varnian responded. "Why would you risk yourselves for our people?" Davis looked around at his crew before answering. "Because helping others in need is what defines us as a civilization. We could not ignore your call." As the initial communication continued, Dr. Alan Miller and Medical Officer Susan Garcia prepared for the first boarding party. They gathered in the Horizon's airlock, dressed in special environmental suits designed to protect both them and the Varnians from potential biological contamination. "Remember," Garcia told the 6-person team, "we don't fully understand their biology yet. Maintain suit integrity at all times. Their atmosphere contains higher levels of nitrogen and trace gases we haven't identified." Miller nodded, checking his translation device one last time. "And remember, they communicate not just with sound but with light patterns. Watch for color changes in their skin. Our translation software is still learning their emotional signals." The shuttle trip from the Horizon to the Homekeeper took 20 minutes. As they approached the massive alien vessel, they could see the extensive damage to its hull. Patches of different materials covered sections where repairs had been made, and some areas showed the distinctive discoloration of radiation damage. "They've been through hell," whispered Mary Johnson, one of the engineering specialists on the team. "It's amazing they've survived this long." A large doorway opened in the side of the homekeeper, revealing a cavernous docking bay. The human shuttle carefully maneuvered inside, setting down on the marked landing area. Through the shuttle windows they could see a group of Varnians waiting, each wearing what appeared to be their version of protective gear, translucent coverings over their most sensitive areas. "Here we go," Dr. Miller said, standing by the airlock door. "First official contact with an alien civilization." The door opened, and the human team stepped onto the deck of the Varnian ship. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, giving them a bouncy feeling despite the weight of their environmental suits. The air that leaked through their suit filters smelled strange, metallic and sweet at the same time. Voice of Many stepped forward from the group of waiting Varnians. In person, the alien was nearly 7 feet tall with a slender build that made it look almost fragile. Its protective covering shimmered as it moved. "Welcome to what remains of our world," Voice of Many said, its words translated by the devices the humans carried. "We feared we would die alone, among the stars." Dr. Miller stepped forward, making the gesture of open hands that they had agreed would symbolize peaceful intentions. "We are honored to meet you. We have brought equipment and expertise to help with your life support systems." The Varnians led the human team deeper into their ship. The interior was unlike anything the humans had imagined. The corridors seemed to be partly grown rather than built, with walls that curved organically and lighting that came from bioluminescent strips embedded in the ceiling. In some places, the walls themselves seemed to pulse gently, as if the ship were alive. "Their technology is integrated with biological components," Mary whispered, scanning the structures with her equipment. "They've essentially grown parts of their ship." As they moved deeper into the vessel, the humans began to see the true extent of the crisis. Entire sections were sealed off to conserve oxygen. Varnians moved slowly, clearly conserving energy. In one large chamber, hundreds of transparent pods lined the walls, each containing a Varnian in what Dr. Garcia recognized as some form of cryostasis. "How many are in suspended animation?" she asked through the translator. "Nearly 3,000, Voice of Many answered, its skin darkening to a deep purple. "Our youngest and oldest, preserved first, when systems began to fail." In the central life support control room, the human team set up their diagnostic equipment. The Varnian engineers watched with all three eyes wide open as the humans worked, their skin colors shifting rapidly in what seemed to be expressions of hope and amazement. Paul Adams, who had joined the boarding party, examined the failing atmospheric processors. His face grew serious behind his helmet visor. "It's worse than we thought," he told Captain Davis over the communication link. "The radiation damage has affected their bioengineered systems at the cellular level. It's like a disease spreading through the living components of their technology. Can we fix it?" Davis asked, his voice tense. Paul looked at the Varnian engineers who were watching him intently, their skin now a pale yellow color. He couldn't tell them the full truth yet. Not until he was sure. "I don't know, Captain," he said quietly. "But we're going to try everything we can." As the first day of contact ended, the human team returned to the horizon to analyze their findings. The situation was dire. The Varnians were running out of breathable air faster than they had admitted in their messages. Without immediate intervention, the first deaths would begin within weeks, not months. That night, Captain Davis called a meeting of his entire crew. "I won't sugarcoat this," he told them. "Saving the Varnian fleet will be harder than we anticipated. But I saw their faces today, all three of their eyes looking at us with hope. We may be the only chance they have. So I'm asking for your best work, your best ideas, and your complete dedication." No one spoke, but one by one, they nodded. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization would not end in failure. They would find a way to save the Varnians, no matter what it took. Dawn on the third day of contact found Chief Engineer Paul Adams still awake, surrounded by holographic displays showing the complex inner workings of the Varnian life support systems. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, and empty coffee containers littered his workstation. He had been studying the alien technology for nearly 48 hours straight, trying to understand why their atmospheric processors were failing. "You need sleep, Paul," Captain Davis said, entering the engineering lab with 2 fresh cups of coffee. He handed one to the exhausted engineer. Paul took the coffee gratefully but shook his head. "Not yet. I think I'm onto something." He pointed to a microscopic image on one of the screens. "Look at this." Davis leaned closer. The image showed what looked like tiny filaments growing through a section of the Varnian technology. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "It's a fungus," Paul said, his voice animated despite his fatigue. "Or something like a fungus. The radiation from that neutron star didn't just damage their systems directly. It caused a mutation in one of the biological components they use in their air recyclers. The mutation is spreading like an infection." Davis frowned. "Can they fix it?" "That's the problem. The Varnians don't have experience with this kind of biological contamination. Their systems were designed to be self-healing, but this mutation overrides that process." Paul sipped his coffee, thinking, "But we've seen something similar." "We have?" Paul nodded. "Early Mars habitats. Remember the Olympus Mons colony crisis? They had a fungal contamination in their hydroponic systems that nearly wiped out their food supply. Dr. Garcia helped develop the treatment. Within an hour, Medical Officer Susan Garcia joined them in the lab, reviewing Paul's findings. Her medical expertise, combined with his engineering knowledge, led to a breakthrough. "He's right," she told Davis. "It's similar to the Mars situation, but more complex because Varnian technology is partly alive. We need to develop a targeted treatment that will kill the mutation without harming the living components of their systems." Meanwhile, Dr. Miller continued working with Voice of Many and other Varnian leaders, learning more about their history and technology. What he discovered was troubling. They've exhausted their mining capabilities, he reported during that evening's strategy meeting. The same radiation event that damaged their life support also damaged their resource-gathering ships. They haven't been able to produce the catalysts needed for their air recyclers for over a year. Lieutenant Jane Cooper, the Horizon's geologist, pulled up star charts of the surrounding region. The 35-year-old woman had been mapping nearby systems since they arrived. "There's an asteroid field about 2 light days from here," she said, highlighting an area on the chart. "Initial scans show it's rich in various minerals. There might be what we need there." Captain Davis looked around the table at his senior staff. Each face showed the strain of the past few days, but also determination. "All right," he said. "We have 2 problems to solve. First, we need to treat this biological contamination in their systems. Second, we need to find the raw materials to repair and restart their atmospheric processors." He turned to Paul. "How long will it take to develop a treatment?" Paul exchanged glances with Dr. Garcia. "With the Varnian scientists helping, maybe a week, but that's just to develop it. Implementing it across all 7 ships will take longer." "And the mining operation?" Davis asked, looking at Lieutenant Cooper. "The Horizon has more advanced mining equipment than anything the Varnians have left," she said. "But we'd need to train them to help us. Realistically, 2 weeks to set up operations and begin extracting what we need." Davis nodded. "Then that's our plan. Dr. Garcia and Paul will lead the team developing the treatment. Lieutenant Cooper will organize the mining operation. Dr. Miller will continue working with the Varnian leadership to coordinate our efforts." As the meeting ended, Lieutenant Wright approached the captain privately. "John, we've been running simulations on the Fold space drive. The return journey to Earth will require extensive repairs before we can attempt it." Davis nodded. "I know, but first things first. We save the Varnians, then we worry about getting home." The next days were a flurry of activity. On the Horizon, Dr. Garcia and her team worked around the clock to develop an antifungal treatment that would work on the Varnian biotech. In one of the smaller labs, they created a replica of a Varnian atmospheric processor using tissue samples provided by their new allies. "It's fascinating. Garcia told Paul as they watched the replica respond to different treatment formulas. Their technology isn't just mechanical with some biological components, it's truly a hybrid, almost like a cyborg at the cellular level. Paul nodded, adjusting the microscope to get a better look at the latest test results. The challenge is killing the mutation without harming the healthy tissue. It's like performing surgery at the microscopic level. On the 5th day, they had a breakthrough. A combination of Earth-based antifungal compounds and synthesized elements from the Varnian biological system showed promising results in the lab. Look, Garcia pointed to the monitor where the fungal infection was visibly retreating from the treated area. It's working. Meanwhile, Chief Security Officer Greg Peters had been training a group of Varnians to assist with the mining operation. The burly security officer had never imagined he'd be teaching aliens how to operate Earth mining equipment, but he found the Varnians to be quick learners. They have incredible hand-eye coordination with those 4 arms, he reported to Lieutenant Cooper. Once they understand the concept, they can often operate the equipment better than we can. The Varnians' multifaceted eyes gave them superior depth perception, and their natural bioluminescence allowed them to communicate effectively, even in the darkness of the asteroid field. By the end of the week, 3 mining shuttles, 1 from the Horizon and 2 refitted Varnian vessels, were extracting the rare minerals needed for the life support repairs. Voice of Many joined Captain Davis on the bridge of the Horizon to observe the mining operation via video feed. The Varnian leader's skin glowed with a soft golden color that the humans had learned indicated strong positive emotions. Your people work without rest to save strangers, Voice of Many said through the translator. We did not know such beings existed in the cosmos. Davis smiled. Honestly, we're just doing what anyone should do when they hear a call for help. The Varnian made a gesture with its 4 hands that the translator interpreted as a sign of disagreement. No, not anyone. Many species would ignore suffering, and of others, some would exploit weakness. You're humans. Travel faster between stars and then between hearts. Davis looked confused, and Voice of Many tried again, its skin pulsing with effort as it sought the right words. This saving of our people happened first, in your minds, then in reality. You decided to help before you even left your world. On the 10th day, Dr. Garcia and Paul were ready to implement their treatment on the first Varnian ship. They started with one of the smaller vessels, applying the antifungal compound to a section of its atmospheric system. If this works, Paul explained to the Varnian engineers watching anxiously, the treatment will stop the spread of the contamination and allow your systems to begin self-healing again. Hours passed as they monitored the results. Slowly, the readings began to improve. Oxygen levels in the treated section increased by 2%, then 5%, then 8%. It's working, one of the human technicians shouted, and the Varnian skin lit up with flashes of blue and gold in their version of celebration. By the end of the 2nd week, the mining operation had produced enough of the critical minerals to begin repairs on the atmospheric processors. The antifungal treatment had been successfully applied to 3 of the 7 ships, with work continuing on the others. Captain Davis watched from the observation deck as human and Varnian engineers worked side by side on the exterior of the homekeeper, installing new components fabricated from the mined materials. Despite their physical differences, the 2 species had quickly learned to collaborate effectively. We might actually pull this off, Lieutenant Wright said, joining him at the viewport. Davis nodded. We will, and when we do, we'll have made friends that can teach us as much as we're teaching them. He thought about the journey home. A problem for another day. For now, watching humans and aliens working together to save 30,000 lives was enough. The universe had just become a little less lonely, a little more hopeful, and humanity had proven itself worthy of the stars. 1 month after their arrival, Captain Davis stood in the great assembly chamber of the homekeeper. The vast room was filled with Varnians, their skin glowing with vibrant colors of blue, gold, and purple, colors that the humans had learned, signified joy and gratitude. The air smelled fresh and clean, a far cry from the stale, struggling atmosphere they had first encountered. The final atmospheric processor is online, Paul Adams reported, unable to hide his smile. All 7 ships now have stable life support systems. The antifungal treatment has eliminated 98% of the contamination, and their self-healing systems are handling the rest. A cheer went up from the human crew gathered in the chamber. After weeks of round-the-clock work, they had done what had seemed impossible. The Varnian fleet was saved. Voice of Many stepped forward, its 4 hands making a complex gesture that the humans now recognized as their highest form of respect. The people of Varnia will sing of humans. For 10,000 years, the alien leader said, its translator conveying the emotion in its voice. You came to us, as strangers, and leave as kin. The revival of Varnians from cryostasis had begun 3 days earlier. Young children and elders were slowly being awakened now that their air was clean and their future secure. Many were seeing humans for the first time, their 3 eyes wide with wonder at the strange 2-armed beings who had traveled across the stars to save them. Over the next 2 months, the UES Horizon remained with the Varnian fleet. The 2 species worked together to establish sustainable mining operations on nearby asteroids. Paul Adams and several Varnian engineers designed an early warning system that would alert them to any similar biological contamination in the future. During this time, a profound cultural exchange occurred. Dr. Miller spent hours each day learning about the Varnians' 7,000-year recorded history, their complex social structures, and their unique arts. In return, he taught them about Earth's diverse cultures and histories. They're poets at heart, he told Captain Davis one evening. Their language has 67 words for the concept of connection. To them, being part of something larger than yourself is the highest aspiration. The Varnians were equally fascinated by human music, which they experienced in a unique way. Their sensitive skin could detect the vibrations of sound waves, giving them an almost physical experience of melody and rhythm. When Lieutenant Wright played her violin for a group of Varnian children, they surrounded her, their skin rippling with colors in time with the music. As the day of departure approached, Captain Davis met with Voice of Many to discuss the future. Our engineers have repaired the fold space drive, Davis explained. We'll be able to return to Earth. What will your people do now? The Varnian skin shifted to a thoughtful shade of green. We continue our journey, our destination. Still. Wait, 12 light years distant, but now we will reach it because of humans. On their final day with the Varnian fleet, a ceremony was held in the Great Assembly Chamber. All 27 crew members of the Horizon attended, along with hundreds of Varnians. Voice of Many stepped forward, holding a small, glowing crystal. This contains the genetic memory out of our homeworld, the alien leader explained, presenting it to Captain Davis. Our highest honor, given only to those who preserve our future. Davis accepted the crystal carefully. In return, he presented Voice of Many with a small data device. This contains Earth's coordinates and an open invitation to visit our world, he said. Humanity would be honored to welcome Varnians whenever you wish to come. As the Horizon prepared to depart, the 7 Varnian ships arranged themselves in a new formation, a circle with an opening that created a path for the human vessel. It was a gesture the Varnians reserved for honored friends beginning a journey. Humanity answered your call, Davis said in his farewell speech. Not because we are exceptional, but because we believe helping others is ordinary. It's what any sentient species should do. The universe is too vast and too ancient for any of us to travel alone. The UES Horizon activated its fold space drive, leaving behind friends where once there had been only desperate strangers. The ship carried data that would revolutionize human science and stories that would transform human culture. 6 years later, Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected an approaching vessel using technology similar to their own fold space, design but with distinctive Varnian modifications. Voice of Many's successor had decided to accept the invitation. The incident became known as the Varnian Salvation, marking the moment humanity proved its readiness for the galactic community. In later years, as humans encountered other intelligent species, They found their reputation had preceded them. The Varnians had shared their story widely, as a Varnian historian later wrote. The humans answered our call when we were strangers. They reached across the void not because they had to, but because they could not imagine doing otherwise. In saving us, they revealed themselves.